Okay, the letter D is pretty similar to the letter A. We again start with this entrance stroke, which is just a thin upstroke, and then we make oval. And for the A, we just made this U-shaped underturn, but for the D, we're going to start it up a little bit higher. Okay, so this is one shape. Okay, now let's look at the direction of all these strokes. So we start with an upstroke here, and then this is downstroke, and then another upstroke. And then this whole shape is a downstroke and then up. So let's look at where our downstrokes are. We have one in the oval and we have one in this part of the letter. So combining those shapes together, we have the entrance stroke, oval, and this taller underturn. Okay, now this doesn't have any shading, but the oval has some shading on the left-hand side. Again, remembering to keep the shade on the inside of the letter of the shape. Okay, same thing here. We have shading on the downstroke, and we're going to keep it on the inside of this shape's width. So we don't want to make this shape wider than it is. And if we put that together, we have entrance stroke, oval, and then you can go back and fill it in. And the good thing about faux calligraphy, and if you do choose to go back and fill it in, is you can kind of make some adjustments if this line wasn't quite as curved as you wanted it to be, or if you make one line a little bit thicker than the other, you can go back and make them the same width. Okay, let's do E. Baseline and header line. E is pretty simple. Again, we start with this upstroke, and then just make an E the way you normally would, except when you come back around, you want to leave this gap that we've been talking about right here. So this is an upstroke. Here we go up, down, and back up. So the only shade we will have on this shape is right here. And you'll see why we want to leave that gap, because when we put it together, if you come back and add this shading in on the inside of the E, so on this downstroke on the inside of it, leaving that gap will make this part blank if you choose to leave it blank. Of course, you can go back and fill it in, and if you do choose to go back and fill it in, it doesn't really matter if you leave that gap. So we have our baseline, our header line, and our ascender. So just like every letter so far, we start with the same entrance stroke. And then I'm going to show you the most basic way to make the letter F, and then I'll show you a variation or two. Okay, so then we're going to do the ascending stem loop. So similar to how the B started. And remember, we're going to come out to the right, go up, around, and leave a little bit of a gap. Come down below the baseline, so we also go into the descending space. And then we'll finish with another one of this shape. Okay, so this is the most basic way to make the F. Up, then we come up, down, and around, and then back up. So this is the only line that will have shading. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap here. So I come up, around. I want to meet up with the entrance stroke on the left. Come down below. And then I'll add in this shading and leave with this entrance stroke. So altogether that looks like this entrance stroke. And then the reason that I added this shading is because if I start this entrance stroke before adding the shading, you can either do that or leave a gap. So I can start it right here and come out so that when I do come down with this shading, there's still a gap. Okay, and if you don't like how this looks, you can also add a little like dot right here to come through and up. I'll also show you another way to make it. Starts the same way with this entrance stroke, and then we'll again make this ascending stem loop, and then when we come down and back up, we'll make a loop on the bottom part of it too. Again, leaving this gap, and then come back up. So up, up, down, and then back up. This one is up. So the only part where we have a shade is on this section. And because this letter is so tall, you can make the loops a little bit shorter on the top and the bottom if you want. Okay, so that's a little bit different version. Again, if you're filling this in, you don't have to worry so much about leaving the gap. Sometimes it's kind of hard to estimate exactly where to start and stop so that you have that gap. So that's only if you want to leave empty space. All right. So there is D, E, and 2 versions of F.